Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast.
Well, hello, everybody. Good to see you again. We just doing a double back-to-back after, of course, the great Brad Weber. I get the follow-up after Brad Weber. And this is kind of like a, a show based on kind of what we all kind of believe in, which is storytelling through media and print, which we both, all three of us kind of agree still has a niche market, which we're going to talk about. And of course, the guy wearing that nice Hawaiian shirt in the corner over there is my partner in the paper here in Coronado, Brad Weber, and he's the publisher of San Diego.
Thanks.
How many publications now?
We have 31 currently. Yeah.
So you don't sleep?
Not enough, but I'm happy.
Just
I
30,
get up every morning.
Just 31.
Just 31.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the gentleman, this imposing figure here with the glasses, looking very stealth, very, very focused, of course, is Mike Monaco. It's good to see you.
Mike Monaco, whatever.
Well, I mean, we've kind of been passing each other's paths off and on for a good 20 plus years, I would guess.
Yeah. I've been chasing your success. Yeah.
Oh, come on. There's no success in storytelling. You were just telling stories and all true community stories, which we all have a passion for, is that story that somehow is not getting covered in the big media outlets or publications.
Exactly.
And by the way, I was a huge fan, as I knocked my microphone over, of course, this our hometown magazine. I used to get it all the time in Chula Vista. And I always looked forward to getting it and always wanted to find out what was going on, because Michael did such a phenomenal job with it. And now he's partnering up with Brad, of course. And tell us a little bit about this new publication.
So just before COVID in 2019, towards the end, as you know, in print can be very fickle. Supply and demand, increasing costs. And to produce a glossy cover highlight newsprint magazine just became cost prohibitive. Also, when you print a certain number of issues, you do get a lot of circulation, but my desire has always been to find more eyeballs to get on this publication. So in 2019, towards the end of December, we printed our last issue. And then we decided to go kind of 21st century, which was digital. So we took 2 months off. We took January and February off. We built a state-of-the-art website that hosted a whole bunch of great unique features. And we launched it on March 7th. 3 days later, COVID hit. So
you never told me about this.
I didn't know the exact timing, but I did know about this.
That's exactly when we got in the studio.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that.
At the same time.
Wow.
Remember? Nobody was on the streets.
Nobody. It was
It looked like a bad end of the world movie.
That's right. Apocalyptic movie. Yeah.
Right.
End of the world.
We were coming to work. You probably were too. I don't know how Coronado is very quiet anyway at night. At a certain time, everybody kind of goes away. But it was like that during the pandemic.
Yep.
And there was only like a few restaurants that were open, and they were just delivery.
Yeah. It was a sad and eerie sight to see. It was very unnerving for me to be driving on a road, not to have literally anybody else on the road on 5 or 805.
We were essentials.
Yeah.
Media was an essential.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we were able to still, and that's a debatable thing, because in my mind, we are essential, but a lot of other things are essential as well. Right.
Right.
But the storytelling of what that whole thing was. So tell me, how did you get through that? And what were your stories during that time?
Well, actually, towards the end of March, we actually shut things down. We were tired of seeing nothing but conflicting stories about COVID and the political environment. And our hometown has always been focused on positive press and truth. And when you have so much misinformation being circulated, it's like trying to catch a feather in the wind, and because it changes direction so quickly. And we just did not want to participate in something that we could not substantially back ourselves. We did not want to put our name on something that we would believe was an absolute truth.
Was it hard to find people to advertise with during that time too? Because a lot of businesses were scared.
Well, yeah. So by the end of March, every business that supported us shuttered.
Of course.
So we also shuttered in a sense, because our hometown's mission has always been to share the good things about Chula Vista and Bonita. and there was nothing good to share. We had no events going on. We had no celebrations. We had no graduations. We had no proms. We had no community events, community concerts. We did not have Starlight Parade. We did not have Harbor Fest. We did not have Lemon Fest. All the things that makes Chula Vista Bonita such a lovely community, things that galvanize the citizens, all stopped. So we were not going to step into the world of rhetoric. We decided it was better for us just to kind of lay low for a while and then start to see how things moved in a positive direction. The vaccines, the school starting to do hybrid models, and then start to work on content like that. It's a challenging thing to go dark, but it was the right thing to do.
Okay.
Because as we look back and we look at the content that was being delivered in mass media, and we look at the rhetoric that was coming from a political stage, it was not a good time for media. And so I think it was a wise choice for us to kind of take a back seat and let all that just take its course.
Okay. Any thoughts?
Well, thoughts are, I couldn't
I mean, how
agree
did
more.
it during that period of time? How was it for you? I mean,
Well, it was tough for the whole industry. It was tough for business in general. We did actually stay. We one of the few around that actually every month we came out with a publication, just because we never were in that that game of, taking sides and putting people against each other and blood and guts and that type of thing. We were always about the good things about the community. Same thing Mike's was doing with our town, same thing we're going to continue to do, but talk about each other, talk about, a lot of our stories at the time focused on the healthcare workers helping COVID patients and, the businesses struggling. And, there were a lot of good things going on. People, restaurants were shut down. So people were, buying, some restaurant friends and customers of mine, people were buying gift cards to use in the future just to keep the cash flow going so they didn't have to shut completely down. Some people just transformed to, ghost kitchens or delivery or whatever they could do. So a lot of creativity going on. So we kind of focused on, how are people getting through this? How are we taking care of each other? And how are people coming up with new ideas and ways to survive and make it to the other side? But, it wasn't just our hometown. San Diego Magazine stopped publishing for a while. And it just kind of, boom, everything shut down.
they got a new owner during that time.
Well, they did recently, and they came back, and it's a great publication. I'm glad they're back because it's an iconic San Diego publication.
I agree.
And but it's it just there was only one good thing to talk about in our opinion, and that was, what are we doing for each other, and let's take care of each other, make people feel better to get through this. We're going to come out of it sometime. It took a lot longer than any of us thought it would. We're still kind of coming out of it. But so we decided to keep publishing because we had industries in home improvement and real estate. That's kind of some of our advertising bases. They were doing fine. The home improvement industry actually kind of boomed during COVID because people were staying home, fixing their homes, and they looked around and,
Gee, I need to fix this.
Exactly. Or
I participated in that. I did a lot of home improvement until lumber went up in price. Then I had to back off a little bit.
So anyway, that's how we get through it. But we're here now, and the great thing about working with Mike is that we're kind of similar philosophy, or very similar philosophies. It's all about community, all about doing the right thing, all about telling the truth. And print is kind of that truthful. It's easy to tell stories online. I mean, you can open a website or social media account, and people, no matter how they feel, can just start shouting and preaching and arguing and do all the things they do online. Print's a little harder game to get into because, number one, it does cost some money. You have to put some funds out there. We do a lot of direct mail. That's expensive. So if you're going to take that position, you better have something, number one, that everybody can kind of buy into and read and accept and celebrate. So you can't really take a position as extreme as you can online
or social media.
Or social media. Yeah, anything.
So you imagine that, people having to think and hold their thoughts, not respond.
Exactly.
Measure your words.
Imagine that, which is probably not a bad thing. We probably need more of that.
Yeah.
So not that this interview is about me, but we are connected, all three of us, because we kind of believe the same thing. So my editorial coming out in the next edition of Beyond the Bridge kind of goes over the fact that with all the differences in the world and all this fighting that's taking place, what we need to do is learn to be different, respect those differences, be able to go to a Padre game, be able to grab a beer and respect each other and say, okay, well, we're different, but I like this about you and I like this about you. And not focus on the things that are negative, but look for the things that are positive. So I think the three of us agree on that. And I think that I think that's kind of where we're headed with what we're doing. And I think that's what the takeaway from, if anything comes from this, is these individuals and myself believe in finding commonality and finding something that gets us and brings us together and focuses on those stories that you're not going to be hearing about in the bigger publications or the bigger media stations. It's all about community. And that's what we need to get back to.
Right. Get back to what truth in journalism is, get back to delivering a message. I think what we've seen that has come out of this COVID situation that's brought me back into print is I kind of equate COVID as a great social experiment in a way, because we've learned so much about ourselves. We've learned there has been so many myths that have came before COVID. People were talking about this digital world. People were talking about, oh, our kids will no longer be in school. Everything is going to be remote. And I think COVID answered a lot of those questions, but what it also answered was our need for human connectivity. And I hear this from a lot of people in education, that even their child, who is the most introverted child, still struggled with some form of depression because they couldn't even connect with people. Our parents used to tell us to go outside and play, right? During COVID, parents were saying, don't go outside and play. So it's just, it was such an upside down situation. And now as we're coming back, I think we're seeing value in relationships. We're seeing value in storytelling. We're seeing value in seeing the good side of something. Norman Vincent Peale said years ago in one of his books, through every adversity holds within itself a seed to an equal or greater benefit. Through COVID and coming out of COVID, I really wasn't thinking about going back into print.
Really?
It was not something that really entered my mind until Brad and I started talking, and we started coming to terms and agreements. Well, print is important. Print is a great avenue for storytelling. And in the past, Our Hometown magazine has probably told some of the most important stories in our community, stories that these subjects would never tell anybody else. But we've had the pleasure of telling stories that are not just Pollyannish, but stories that will actually catch you in the throat. They don't always have a happy ending, but shows the grace and love and compassion of our community. And I wanted to bring that back. And Brad and I started talking about, well, what would that look like? We realized that print, and like the style of print that Our Hometown magazine did, was expensive. And it's not any cheaper because of the paper shortage. So I love the delivery system that Brad created in the Eastlake Connection and all the other publications. I've always respected that about him, that he is
just that.
Oh no,
one thing.
Not the fact that he's strikingly handsome as well, but
so much for the truth.
But we decided, I think we could put this together. He grew his publication for a certain size, and I think together we can make this bigger. So we have quadrupled the presence of the particular publication, Eastlake Connection, branding it as Our Hometown, which is a known brand in the community. And we're launching it in the middle of September as our comeback issue. But that wasn't the only reason why I got back into print. I was getting phone calls and conversations from my previous advertisers, and they all said, we need print back. They did the digital thing, and they're involved in the digital world of Facebook, Instagram, social media. But they've learned what we've learned, that there's no one media that solves the problem or that gives you the exposure, the impressions, and the reach you need. It has to be balanced. And print is one of those things. We look at print, we look at people who went to Kindle and other forms. They like that. But bookstores are booming right now in business because people like print. They like the feel of the paper. It's tangible. It's not elusive.
Right. And it's a reminder too. I mean, the analogy I like to use is the when the internet boom came way back when.
.com.
The .com boom. Yeah. You used to get these big, thick catalogs from, Sears was the old original, but a lot of people sent big, thick catalogs that you read through, and you ordered and you called and you sent orders in. And then when the .com boom came, they all shut down. They quit print. And they said, we're all online now. We're just going to go online. It didn't work that well. A lot of them went out of business. And now you see kind of, instead of seeing a 200-page catalog, you'll get a 16 or 20 or 24-page catalog with just the highlights of your clothing or whatever you're selling. And it's a reminder to go to go online and shop. So this is kind of the same thing. Mike had this beautiful website that's powerful. It does a lot of things, but you got to remember there's so much online. It's hard to remember all the places you can go online. There's just so many choices. But the print coming every month, not only does it tell the stories in print, but it also directs people back to the website to get current updated information, get videos like we talked to, and a more complete experience and a more current communication. But you need to reminder, otherwise people, they get busy, they start going to other websites and on other social media, and they forget where our hometown website, that I should go back there. But this is a reminder, don't forget to go back and get current events and that type of thing. So I like to say print's the center of it all. You got to be everywhere, because people have a lot of ways to reach people. But print is kind of this, not only is it trustworthy, it's unique because very few people are in print now, but it also is a reminder, and it's kind of the center of the whole multimedia experience that you want to reach people with.
Print can be almost well, it's very connective. Even though it's one dimensional, it's just pictures and words. You can embed things in print that can redirect. So thank God for the guy that invented the QR code.
Yep.
Because we can take now the QR code and embed it in something print. And with technology, you scan that QR code and it can redirect you to so many different things. It can redirect you right to our website. It can redirect you to secondary content that's video driven. I was actually having this conversation last night with Chief Roxana Kennedy of the Chula Vista Police Department. In her presentation, she had a beautiful footage of how effective their drone response program is.
One of the best in the country.
Yes, pretty much the tip of the spear. She's actually training now other police departments. So I advised her. I said, "Hey, look, we should be doing content about what is the progression of the police department. And the videos you showed us, we can embed into a QR code. And as people are reading the article on paper, hit the QR code and go right to a video that shows how effective and efficient and responsive and non-intrusive these drones are." And it's a compelling story. Videos can show the emotion. Videos can tell a great story, but not without a script.
Exactly. QR codes, by the way, COVID kind of helped us. I've been a believer in QR codes and the power of them, and how, if they were used right, they would become accepted and used. And with restaurants, you can't order a hamburger anymore without a QR code almost. So
I demand a real paper menu.
Good for you.
But you're right.
Yeah,
You'll get one.
People have been exposed. When they see it in print now, they kind of know what it is. Because it used to be you'd see one in a 100-page magazine, you'll see two little QR codes and flip by and like, why am I going to, you need to explain to me why I want to go use this thing, because there's not enough. There wasn't a critical mass, but now people know what they are. They see them a lot. And if you put enough in there and they know they're going to go see something cool, they're going to see a video of the drones from the police department, or they're going to see a speech by someone, or they're going to see some kid playing sports in school, whatever it is, it's going to be a cool experience that they can see.
I see it being, like you said, more of that happening. I think we used it for our program. Did we use that for our program for the 4th of July parade?
Yeah.
And it's here.
Yeah.
So that's also probably very good for a lot of businesses that are trying to get the upper hand or the edge of the competition.
It stimulates. So one of the advertisers I'm working with right now, who has a very popular Italian restaurant in Chula Vista, one of the things we're talking about is, of course, we can digitize his menu. He's already a kind of a legend in the community.
Tony,
his
brother.
He's got 2 locations. He just opened up the second one.
It's a contest. We should give a prize.
Okay. I'm going to say who it is. It's Pizzo's Pizza and Wine Bar.
I have not been there.
Shame on you.
I didn't know about it.
It's a beautiful place.
You're giving him a plug right now. Did everybody hear that?
Pizzo's Pizza and Wine Bar. So
what? Read them in the newspaper. Of course, you didn't get this. You don't.
So what Santino and I talked about.
Have you been, Sarah?
I have not, but I got to tell you, Cynthia Salanista. Do you know the name? Cynthia Cusack, I think is what her real name is.
You know her?
She says, "Wow, I remember Michael when I was doing Art Rocks Radio in 2010." She says, "Say hello for me."
Yes.
And she also is one of
watching.
our writers for our newspaper in Coronado.
Small world.
And Polly Walshin is saying hello to Brad and Brett.
Oh, hi, Polly. Thanks.
Paulie, thank you for giving us your time. I know you're busy, so there must be something interesting that we're talking about. Thank you.
Yeah,
Paulie-
thank you.
Paulie, you're going to hear more about her later. So we're talking
Perfect.
about this.
So the idea is to show he's very old school, throws the dough, showing how he works. The flour that he uses for his pizza comes all the way from Italy.
Wow.
It is a 00 flour that you cannot get domestically.
Wow.
He ships in, I think, 2 tons a month.
Well, you've got us enticed. We're going to go.
Yeah, I think you're
Yeah, I know. We're going to go on we're going to go on a cheat day when we have a cheat day on Sunday and try the pizza out.
I'll finance that cheat day for you.
So you have to thank, of course, if you're watching, what's the owner's name?
Santino Pizzo.
That's his name?
Yep.
Santino.
He's about as talented as you can get.
Very. Santino, you can thank this Michael, of course, for this plug, because now you may have a new customer base because of this.
Oh, if
You might be better-
if you haven't eaten at Pizzo's, and you can ask anybody who's been there, you will not hear a negative thing. It is outstanding service, outstanding food.
Well, if you say that, I believe you, because I've known you for a few years and you've always been pretty on the dime.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Maybe we'll have a launch party there or something for our first
I love it.
publication.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so
Free wine.
That's a great idea.
depends how much you drink.
Well, if we are talking about libation, all right, here, I will tell you a little secret. I introduced Santino to a cocktail that I invented.
Really?
And so we put it on the menu and naming it after me, called the Monaco GT.
Wow.
So what it is basically a top shelf gin and tonic with limoncello.
Nice.
And so you'll see that. And it's also being served. Here's another shameless plug. It's being served under a different name called the GTL at Romesco's. So
Are they a customer?
they're friends. The families have been friends for years, and they were customers of my publication back in the day.
Very
But
nice.
they're just good people.
Well, your publication, and I know Chula Vista because I grew up there. It sounds very much like about family and friends. Seems to be this thing that keeps coming up in our conversation, and I think that's why you're going to be so successful, because that's still, even with the digital age, it's still the foundation and the bedrock of what communities are about.
I still run into customers or people who we've showcased in our magazine, and they'll say, I still have the issue, or I've taken it and I've framed it and I put it on the wall. And that's something that speaks volumes to print,
Sure.
because it's something you can't necessarily do with digital.
No.
So digital comes and goes. I have the same challenge. I see a story on Facebook or on my Google feed, and it strikes my interest, and I try to share that with my wife, and I've got to go digging through a bunch of stuff to find it again. Print is very reliable.
You know where it's at.
Yeah, and it's not going to go away. You can
Right.
have the magazine on your coffee table for months.
One thing about print that I like also is that when you turn a page, you don't always know what's going to be on the other side of the page. When you're going through the internet or something digital, you have to know exactly where you're going.
Right.
I like surprises. I like finding that story that I would never have thought about.
We get a lot of surprises with pop-ups on the internet. You don't enjoy those when people
Surprise you won the lottery.
buy this,
Surprise.
buy this, sign up for this form. The other thing about print, there's lots of studies that people, because you don't, my wife always says, Brad, you got too many tabs open. And it's so true, because I find one thing and I open another tab and go, and then I forget where I was.
So do I.
And we all do that, I think, too, maybe not to my extent, but we all do it. But print studies show that people that read something in print versus read something online, they just remember it a lot more. It's not even close. You ask them later, where did you see this, or what do you remember about this? And they're going to answer the questions. If they absorb the information, it's more memorable, it sticks in their mind, and you don't have a bunch of other things competing with your eyes and other senses when you, including touch, when you're reading something. So it's definitely got a place. I mean, the story of the print is dead. Print is dead in news. What we just talked about. You know, you're going to get your today's news. You're going to get today. Tomorrow's morning's daily paper. It's all old news by then. But the type of thing we talk about is just timely. Number one, and it's not necessarily happened yesterday. It may have happened 3 months ago, but nobody heard about it. So we're going to talk about, the community event, or someone like the police department, what they're doing with their latest equipment. That type of thing is more. It's just more. It's small. It's what people care about. Nobody
It's
else is
intimate.
talking about.
It's intimate and personal.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's definitely got a place. I mean, we're proof of it. Everyone wondered what the heck I was doing, staying in print and diving more deeply into print. But Mike's a really good, I said it before, it's a really great example, because online is just hard. It's hard to build an audience online. It's just tough because there's so many things going on out there. So print can help build that audience and make you fall in love. A great website, people will fall in love with it and form habits to go back to it day by day. And print can really do that. The catalogers have proven that.
I think our returning advertising base speaks volume to where they think print is. Previous to COVID, when we printed, and you could look through the magazine, you'll see that we have some very conventional and also some very unconventional advertisers. One of the biggest shocks in print that stumped a lot of our larger competition was we were actually being supported by the school districts. You got to ask yourself a question: why would an elementary school district or a high school district actually financially support print? For a number of reasons. One, they see the value in keeping their parents updated on what's going on in the schools. And some of that, I believe, is tied to something called LCAP, a Local Control Accountability Plan, that comes down from the state of California. But some of it is just a desire of really good superintendents saying we need to show the quality of education and the quality of passion we have for educating your kids. So far, it looks like these two school districts will be returning back with us in the new newsprint.
Good.
Which is good for us, because that also is our moral compass. By working with school districts, it keeps us focused on what stories matter. The greatest thing that you could do for a parent is to praise their child. Probably above that, the greatest thing you can do that will really be good for a parent is to praise their child publicly.
Well, it's good for the child too.
That's right. So we focus on allowing the unique thing about our hometown magazine that will also come with our hometown newsprint is we're not necessarily a go out and write a story publication. We don't dispatch journalists to go out and write stories. I came from major market media, both print, TV, and radio. The biggest challenge with print is that oftentimes they get the story wrong. How many times have we been misquoted?
A lot.
Right. And you can't change that. When
they go back and they fix it, but by then it's already gone out.
Right. Too late. You go back to TV and radio, and to give you a story, you'll notice that in TV, you get about a 30-second soundbite once, and it's gone. Print is sustainable, and it's also almost eternal in the sense that it's going to be there for as long as you want it. So you can always go back to it, and that's important. But the nice thing for us, going back to the topic of how we do it, is we're more of a conduit. And what I mean by that is we actually, through our partners, school districts, nonprofits, city government, organizations in the city, we actually allow them to provide us content. And because they're a trusted partner, we don't do any editing or censor, because we know what they're talking about is their own words. I think in the 9-year history of publishing our hometown magazine, I had one complaint, and it was a misunderstanding. But no one's going to complain about when you're praising their children or talking about the good things in your community. So this is why we stay with this. We allow the stakeholders in our community to tell their story. And yes, on occasion, when we find a great story to tell, then we will put that story together and we'll tell it. And we've had a number of great stories, and I'll briefly just touch on a couple of them that you probably might know the people, but didn't know their story. One of our first issues. So what we did in our hometown magazine is we are very patriotic. We believe November is a great month for Thanksgiving, but it's also the best month to celebrate our veterans. So we actually gave November, which is Veterans Day month, we gave them the issue. So from our first November issue all the way to the last, we dedicated November to highlighting something about our armed forces and our veterans. The very first story I wrote, and you can go to our website and go to the bottom, and you'll see a tab that says, or a little word that says archive, and click on archive, and you can go back to every issue we've ever printed. But in 2013, we wrote a story on a gentleman named Skip Crane, and Skip Crane was SEAL Team 1-1. He was the very first, and talked about how this whole thing of the Navy SEALs came about, and where his history was, and talked about his father. And this was the photo shoot took place right there in Cornell, right down the street from here. The next year, in 2014, November, we wrote a very compelling story on Bob Sutherland.
Yeah.
So those of you who live in South Bay know the name Bob Sutherland.
He's also a former veteran.
Yes, he is. He was actually a corpsman in Vietnam. Bob Sutherland owns pretty much a majority of all the McDonald's in South Bay, but one of the kindest souls
Yes.
you'll ever meet.
Yes.
And probably one of the most patriotic men I have ever met. Bob has always been very private, and it took a while to wrangle an appointment with him. And even when I got an appointment with him, I'm sitting in his office, it wasn't an interview, it was a conversation, because he was definitely checking me out to make sure that I was a man of character, because he was not going to share any of his information with me if he did not trust me. And we went through a series of these conversations until he finally agreed to let me tell his story. I am not going to disclose anything about that story because I want you to actually read the article. So when you go to our website, go to the bottom, click on archive, scroll all the way down to November 2014 and read the story of Bob Sutherland. He has not shared what he shared with me with anybody else ever. And for a matter of fact, some of his friends came up to me and said, I didn't even know this about him, because we were trusted and we respected him. When we did our first major series of digital stories, we actually were the only people that tell the life story of Greg Cox in a 3-part series. And I would encourage you to go to our website and see that as well, because what's interesting in this is when you read his story, his chapter 1, you'll see some words in blue. And if you click on those words in blue, it'll take you to deeper details of that topic.
It's really something.
So this is what we're doing with our website, is as you go to our website and you look at our digital stories and you see things in blue, if you click on that, it'll redirect you. So there's a lot of funny things about Greg Cox that, again, people didn't know that his sister or his wife or his friends shared with us. Nothing embarrassing, nothing controversial, but you get to look into the life of a man that's highly respected and learn something about him that you may have known him all your life and didn't know. This is why people love our hometown. This is why we do what we do, is because we get the honor of sharing great stories about great people and having fun with it.
Well, Greg, as you know, is probably one of the best at what he did. I mean, did it for so many years so well. And Cheryl also did a phenomenal job when she was mayor. There was a lot of people that wasn't sure that she was going to be able to pull that off in a first run. And she had a very challenging time, but she did a very good job.
She was perfect. She was the perfect mayor at the perfect time.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
She herself is a big personality in a sense, because she is once a teacher, always a teacher.
Right.
And even when she would run her city council meetings, she was like a teacher.
Right.
If you ever watch those, it's great because she knows how to herd the cats.
She does. And she's a good person. She loves my wife, by the way. They get along very well. And, so what we're, the takeaway, again, I said that a few times, is that people want these stories. They want to hear more good things. I think everybody's tired of negative fighting and getting away from things like talking about Bob Sutherland and his life and hearing stories that maybe they weren't aware of. I mean, those are more uplifting and more inspirational. And so, I think that's why you're at the right time of doing, of course, our hometown again in Chula Vista, because it's very well needed. It's needed all over the place. But the fact that you're doing this in Chula Vista, I think it resonated before, and probably even more now, because it's needed really like a lot.
This, I have to give Brad kudos, because this would not be moving forward if Brad did not, offer his publication to grow and to meet, kind of meet up with us to collaborate. I don't like the word partnership. I use the word collaboration,
Right.
Because I think in all the things that we do in print that benefits everybody is a collaboration. It's the synergy. And that's why I believe when we launch our comeback issue, as I call it, in the middle of September, it's going to be phenomenal. And I think it's going to hit all the notes that the community wants and what they missed. But I have to say, it would not be possible without Brad Weber's support and collaboration. So that's why I'm very excited about talking to him. And I could talk for hours about so much that we're going to do, but you need to stay tuned for that.
We'll come back, and I'll say the same thing. It wouldn't happen. I've been a fan of Mike for a long, long time, and we first met because I was a magazine printer, and I called you about printing. I want to print that magazine and put it in gloss and all that stuff. But the economics, dictated you do it a certain way. But he's always been, and he took me down to Chula Vista to some of the events, and I saw who he hung with, for one thing. And he's always been all about community, so pure. And if it's not good for Chula Vista, Brad, I don't want any part of it. And while that's makes it more difficult sometimes, it's the right way to go for sure. So he's the right guy. I'm really happy to be a part of this. I'm excited to see what's the contents of this paper, because Mike's kind of controlling that part down there while we do our other areas. So
which makes me happy. But yeah. I mean, it's not control; it's more adapting.
Yes. To
your print, but bring in some ideas. So the one thing when I talk about our hometown newsprint is when you look at the magazine, it has a certain flow to it. When you open up, you look at the advertising, the content, the editorial pages. We're converting that same flow into a newsprint. So for those who are used to reading our hometown magazine and opening it up and knowing where our Bravo section is, which is where we celebrate small successes in our community, to our community news, to our school news, that's the same way the newsprint will flow. So it's going to be very different than most newspapers as well. It's not going to be disjointed. It's going to have a very easy flow and very readable, but it's one of those things that you're going to put down and want to pick back up again and read. But I would say that I think one of the things that moves this ball forward, even in this conversation, Brett, is we have more than just a business philosophy at stake in here, more than just publishing. We have a legacy. And it's important for me to leave a mark in my community of a legacy. And I think you all share that with me. We all have something that what we do is great. It's a business, it's a passion. But when we're gone, what will we be remembered by? And for me, I don't want to be known as the most popular guy in Chula Vista. I don't want to be known as the best looking guy in Chula Vista, because that's never going to happen. But I do want people to say, your father wrote Can I tell a quick story?
Sure.
Okay, this one's going to catch me at the back of the throat because I didn't see this one coming. So my father-in-law ended up in the hospital. He's a great man. He's a 2-time cancer survivor. And he had a little bit of a challenge, and he had to go to Kaiser in Claremont, their new facility. And so after he was settled and checked into his room, I was allowed to go visit him. But of course, this was kind of during the midsection of COVID. So there was a lot of protocols in place, right? So I go to Kaiser, I get in line, and I get to the nurse's station. And I go up and I sometimes those nurses stations, you only see eyeballs and head. You don't see the whole face. So I go up, and this gentleman calls me up, and I start to say my name, and he interrupts me. He goes, "I know who you are." And that just stunned me. I go, "You know who I am?" He goes, "Yeah, I know who you are." And I go, you have me at a disadvantage. How do I know you? And he goes, "Well, you probably don't recognize me. It's been a couple years. I've gotten huskier and put on a beard, but you did a story on me and my daughter, and it was about kids and careers and parents." At the time, he was a nursing student and teaching firefighting at Southwestern College.
Wow.
And he goes, "You put my daughter on the cover of your magazine in his fire hat." And he goes, "You don't know how that touched me." He goes, "My daughter's grown up now, but we always talk about that." He goes, that still means so much to her. And it means just as much to him on how I honored his child and how I gave her presence. I gave her respect. And he goes, "We will never forget that." And that just cut me to the heart.
It's a great story.
I'll say.
You never know what's going to come out of these podcasts or even in radio, but I think that explains exactly what the mission is here. It's all about the heart. It's all about empowering people to have a self-respect that we need more of now, more than ever. So, of course, to Brad Weber, and of course, I appreciate everything that you've done for us. We've enjoyed working with you, and Michael's has been doing great stuff, great work for years. And I think it's going to be a really good end of the year, the way to finish the year. No matter what's going on, we're all going to go forward with what our mission is, and that's to make people feel better.
Our legacy.
Yes. Anything else you want to say before we head off?
To learn more about our publication, you can go to our website, which is ourhometown.online. You'll see some stories. Again, if you're always interested in what we've published in the past, just scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see a little word called archive. You click on the archive, and again, all those previous issues will pop up. There's some great stories. It's good reading. But yeah, and then just follow us. You'll see as soon as we bring out our new issue, we'll be putting new information and new articles that we're putting into the newsprint. A lot of those articles will translate to our website and also hopefully have some interactive features.
And I'll just add the timing, logistics. The first issue, the relaunch issue, is going to be in September, towards the middle into September. And you can find it at a variety of places throughout Chula Vista and Bonita, correct?
That's right.
And also, a few of you will be getting in your mailbox also. So we're a multi-distribution, not only online, but also print via direct mail. This is more the logistics for the advertisers. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, if you're a business in Chula Vista and want to reach the people of Chula Vista and Bonita, it's a great way to get the word out. We've heard why, the community falls in love with the publications because of what we do and what Mike's going to be doing in Chula Vista. And if you want to be affiliated with a quality business that cares about the community and also offers great products and services, whether you're a restaurant or home improvement or anyone else, give us a call. The numbers are on the screen, so you can reach Chula Vistans, and we're really excited about this big relaunch down there.
And if you have children in any of the elementary or high schools, you will actually be able to find our magazine in the office. We are the only publication allowed.
That's great.
In the schools.
And that's a hard thing to do.
It's nearly impossible.
Right.
But because of our partnerships, because of the reputation that Brad has and that I have, and what we're doing with the schools, that's big for us. It's not our only distribution point. We all have over 500, but it speaks to the volume of how the school systems and the educators value the communication and what we do. So that's important to mention as well.
Well, I appreciate you both, as you know, and I admire what we're all trying to accomplish. And I love the fact that you're restarting your publication, because I know it's going to change a lot of lives. And I thank you for being here, both of you.
Thanks for having me.
You guys are great guys. I'm very lucky to be able to be around these types of gentlemen. And it has been a good show today. And as you heard, print media is still alive. If anybody wants to advertise with Michael, the information's there at the very bottom. He's a quality guy. Brad's a quality guy. And we think the world of them. And everybody out there, if you've got some great stories, I'm sure Michael would love to hear about them too.
If you're in Chula Vista, Bonita, and you got a story, I want to meet you.
There you go. And you probably already know him anyway.
Actually, Melina Lowe says hello to Brad and Mike also.
No, there's a success story to talk about.
She's amazing.
Is that the Entrepreneur of the Year?
I believe so. She was recognized last night
as Entrepreneur of the Year.
I think so. Yeah.
Well,
Melina.
And she's awesome. You want to talk? If you think I got energy, she's got me beat.
I didn't see that.
It's interesting because the first time I met her, we were at the same event together.
Right.
I think we met her the first time together, same place.
Right.
Yeah, a little networking group.
There you go.
Melina.
So everybody out there, thank you so much for watching our show. And of course, I'd like to thank the sponsors because they're great. Of course, Attorney King. We were just talking about him. He's a great guy. He does a lot for the community. Thank you, King, for everything you do. And we look forward to doing the Teachers Academia Awards in December, honoring all the top teachers of San Diego County. It's the real deal. There'll be voting going on for that. And we look forward to doing it for the second year. Of course, Sequan Casino and Resort, where the event will be taking place. And Cody Martinez, thanks for what you do. We appreciate you and all you do in the community of San Diego. Sequan is amazing for community people and events. And of course, IB Fitness and Marina Teal, who's just a phenomenal person and has a lot of military individuals that go to her gym. She's not too far from that Navy SEAL base over, and the big one that's over on the way to IB or on your way to Coronado. You've probably seen it.
She probably is the Navy SEAL trainer. She just can't disclose that.
She probably is, and you're probably right, and it wouldn't surprise me. You probably got it right on the dime. And of course, Bona Fichetta, the garage on Marco, provides all that delicious food. in Coronado, and of course, all the community things that you do, Marco. Thank you so much. And to everybody out there, be nice to each other and yippee-ki-yay.